Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we're conducting an interview with a manager of a local pizzeria in Arkansas. And I'm joined by my streaming partner, Bud Soda, and we have Hunter calling in. How you doing, everybody?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Bud's, Bud, you doing
Yeah,
good?
I'm doing
Good.
great. Sorry. I'm trying to get away from a shopping center, so my signal may be a little fuzzy.
Yeah, drive a little faster, would ya? No, kidding.
I can't with this much weight.
No, we want to promote driver safety, so we're not going to have people speed like crazy. But that also said, Hunter wanted, and he fell off. That's fine. And Hunter wanted to talk to us about a video that we had conducted on the channel before. This is a video talking about this restaurant owner. If you guys want to see that, feel free to check it out. That link is going to be in the description. Now, you did say that there were some things you did not 100% agree with, and we perfectly understand that there's going to be controversy on all sides. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak since you've asked so nicely about it, and we're 100% respectful. So, Hunter, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about you and who you are and all of that good stuff while Bud tries to figure out his situation, I would give you the floor, but you don't really have a camera, so whenever you're ready.
Hey, alrighty, nice to be here. Appreciate you having me on. I appreciate your time. My name's Hunter. I work at a pizza place named Jim's Razorback Pizza in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I worked there for the past 10 years. And yeah, the main reason for coming on here today was due to that video, of course. I just felt it was a little too in defense of the third-party drivers, and I wanted to just like in corroboration with the other testimonies from the drivers that that airing had shown and that you pulled up and showed as well. Just kind of wanted to corroborate that as just like a regular old person who deals with third-party drivers on a day-to-day basis. And I was just gonna say that most everything that they said, I see on a day to day as well, like the chargebacks and then drivers with no bags. I see drivers with no bags all the time, and I just have to give them the hot food and send them on their way, um, just as quick as I can, hopefully, so that the the food's not cold. And then we are very adamant about the food being as hot as possible whenever it reaches the person who's ordered it, just because it's a much better experience that way, and that was the way it was meant to be enjoyed. And then also the part where you said that drivers weren't multi-apping. I have seen drivers multi-apping, and also like I don't know what you would call it, but I guess multi-drivering, where a couple of people will be in the same car and they will both have their apps up taking and sending orders. But I've had situations where they just have to leave my store and I have to get a new driver because their other driver left to go get an order at another store, and then they come back asking where's my order. I'm like, I had to send it with another driver. I hit request another driver, and so I figured that you got notified about that. um, but yeah, I've had a couple situations like that, and then I've also had uh, on the issue of oh shoot, I forgot what the third point was. I had this wrote down, I'm sorry.
We can
Don't
discuss
worry
the
about it.
first one, the hot bag thing first. So, I see that too, and it drives me absolutely nuts. that a lot of drivers don't use a basic pizza bag because that almost guarantees that people are going to stop tipping, and it's becoming a big problem.
Okay, well, since we're starting there, I totally understand somebody's being like, all right, these drivers, I understand that they're all independent and all their stuff, but they still need to have the equipment in order to conduct the actual task they are supposed to like achieve. Like they're supposed to be delivering hot food. They should have pizza bags or some sort of hot bags for hotter orders. I totally understand making sure that person has the proper tools for the job. That I'm not even going to defend that. I hardly ever defend that. Like there's one person who made a point about like the quality that DoorDash sends you isn't isn't up to the standard in which that would need to maintain the quality of the food. And you know what? That's fine, but you're also a business owner. So there are other bags that can accomplish that. But there is also the point that if an order is sitting on a counter for 40 minutes, right? And the order is cold. Like the order is like the order at that point, there like you can keep it under a heat lamp or whatever. The order is still cold or whatever that looks like, or lukewarm. There's only so much a hot bag is actually going to accomplish with that. So, and that's not really the problem of the restaurant nor the driver, and more so the platform being not offering a value that would get accepted. Like if I'm seeing an order for $2 going 9 miles, I'm saying, hey, I'm need to let somebody else handle that.
Yeah.
And if a customer chooses not to tip their driver, that's also going to be all right. Well, we can't take that either. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's not economical.
And yeah, it's not economical. So there is arguments to be made, but it's less about the bags themselves and more so the totality of the situation, if that makes sense. And yes, I 100% agree that drivers need to have bags. That is the service they are committing to. If they're not providing that service, you should not work with them. That's just reality.
Yeah, I see it as like buying non-slip shoes at a location that requires you to have non-slip shoes. I see it as the same thing, having bags for being a delivery driver.
It's having bags for being a delivery driver, non-slip shoes, wearing actual pants. Like if you're gonna do IT work, you need to have the skills in order to actually work on IT. It's just part of what you do. Or imagine if a carpenter like saw a broken door or whatever, and they came with no tools. Like that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
So I think we can agree on that point to where it's more, it is the totality, but all parties involved need to be on their stuff. It's not so much, it's not just a driver thing, it's an everybody thing. And yes, the driver absolutely needs their bags. And what was the other point that you wanted to bring up on this
The multi-apping.
Multi-apping. Okay. So how do you define multi-apping, like from the perspective of somebody conducting it?
So multi-apping for me / the multi-drivering was I've had people come in and they've got 2 different phones, and I'm only 100% sure on a rare few cases where they're using the other phone for another app, but I do understand that sometimes some people have bought a new phone just specifically for the delivery app / third parties, and that the other one is their personal and it's not involved whatsoever. But I have had a rare few instances where they are using 2 different phones to do different apps, or they have another quote unquote driver in their car, and they're both taking and delivering orders throughout the day that way, and it's putting one or both of them behind because they're having to do two people's worth of orders when the third parties think that they are just a singular person and they're planning out their deliveries as such. But I define it as working two different apps at the same time while the employer of one is not aware of the other and is unreasonable for them to think that someone would be working at, I guess you'd say, two different uh, businesses at the same time.
Okay. So let's first off acknowledge one point. You mentioned having multiple phones, and one is for personal, one's for business. That is relatively common, even though in reality, most drivers who say they're doing that actually have like some apps on one phone, some apps on another, or really some cases they're committing fraud and they have two different quote unquote accounts for the same platform and they're pretending to be two different people. All of
Okay.
those things can be true. Now, if an app tells me to pick up two orders at a single location, one app is telling me to pick up two orders at a single location because they want it to go in that direction.
Yeah.
That they can't just release one. Like that's something Pizza Hut has tried to do to drivers. Like, no, I can only hand you this one. Well, DoorDash is telling me to pick up both of them. Otherwise, I got to drop the whole order. There is nothing that they can do about that.
No.
In terms of having multiple phones, and if they're picking up one order for DoorDash and one order for Grubhub, would you hand them both orders?
I mean, I have no other choice. They're scheduled to pick it up. If I want to request another driver, it's going to take an extended amount of time for that order. So I just have to hand them both. I have this separate computer that has all of the third-party apps conglomerated on it, and I can see the name of the driver, where they're going. I could even track them by GPS, where they're at, if they're on the way, if they're on their way to the person who's ordered. But yeah, if they're on there and I have to hit request new driver, I've seen it take upwards of 25 minutes to finally just find a driver that's available before they're even on their way to me.
Okay, so logistically, it would add more time to the order and therefore probably earn you a bad review, which is harder to recover from, especially based on what I'm seeing here. You have received complaints about long wait times, and sometimes that's not even something within your control.
No.
Yeah, so I hear your point when it comes to that. Now, I define that. This is me. Not everybody defines it this way. Bud Soda, once upon a time, he did that, but ever since the apps really got tighter about this, and they have, they're very much cracking down on this too. We call that dirty multi-apping, to where you're picking up from for multiple apps at the same time. It's one thing to be signed up with multiple apps. Like, as a business, because we are in business for ourselves, we need to have multiple avenues of income, multiple ways to receive orders. And whether that's through direct clients, whether that's through customer, like through platforms, whether that's through contracts, we need to maintain a consistent flow in order to profit. Now, that also said, some drivers tend to take multiple orders because they're paying well, but sometimes those orders are not sometimes those orders are only taken because they're going in the same direction. And even though they're not 100% profitable, they'll take them anyway. And these apps are cracking down on dirty multi-apping to begin with. That's why there's now on-time rating. So that way, if the order is late, that's going to hit your rating. It's going to take you out of the better programs that allow you to schedule to begin with. I'm sure Bud can tell you a little bit more about how, dirty multi-apping is to begin with, and he just can't stay on the line. Jeez, my dude.
That sucks.
Yeah, but he was actually, and for total transparency, he was the king of stacking orders at once. But he was doing it in such a way to where, all right, it's still on time, it's still maintaining a quality service for the customer, and he's still working with all of the restaurants effectively in that way, and it's not causing any late deliveries. He's good at that. Unfortunately, that also had led to the overall community to believe that everybody can do it because it seems so simple because he's been doing it for a long time. Well, it's because he's been doing it for a long time that allows him to understand where the mistakes would be if he were to screw up in that way, right?
Yeah, well, it's not only that, but he's also developed the skill in which, in his head, he knows the approximate wait times of where he's going, the approximate drive times to and from locations, and so he can just kind of mentally map it out in his head what drive is going to take longest, which one's going to take shortest, where to go first to grab the food, and where to hit first, stuff like that.
Yes, and that takes time, and people can do that effectively if they know how to do that. Unfortunately, too many people have done it wrong in order for there to be such a hard set on that. And I'm sure Bud Soda can tell you a little bit more about dirty multi-apping being.
We look for the routes going in similar directions. So like think north and northeast. So the north one's closest, northeast is a little further away. Take the same general route, and you don't delay the order by more than say 5 minutes. It's like a tolerable time. So like on DoorDash, for example, we got 9 minutes till we get a violation. But the on-time rating matters now, especially if you have to work these programs. If you're below what they call silver, gold, or platinum, now they will literally throttle you, especially if you're in an oversaturated market, and all you will get is declines. You will not get anything really that good. Maybe a side occasional shop if you're in that program, but that's the only thing. So we just have to look at it as, is it worth my time to do? And most drivers I know, I have a baseline of $5. I think Joe has a baseline of $10. We don't take any offers below that. And $5 for me has to be quick and easy. So basically another mile, 2 miles max, because it's got to be a quick turnaround for us to make money. And it's that, and gas is, still pretty expensive where I am, at least. It varies from $3 a gallon to $3.50 a gallon. And I know in the cornfield states or a lower tax state like Florida, you probably guys are in the twos, mid high twos. So it's a big factor for us in very many regions, what we'll take and what we'll deal with. Dirty multi-apping is just a word that came up. I don't see nothing wrong with it. The problem is there's guaranteed wages in places like Seattle, New York City, Prop 22, California. If you try to multi-app, these apps instantly crack down because of that guaranteed wage, and you will be deactivated. And that's why it seems like it takes longer to get drivers. And you said, why are they giving 2 different restaurants, which is very common. And if your order isn't ready, they're hopping over that other restaurant that's like a quarter mile down the street. Then they came back, and you wondered where that driver went for 20 minutes. That's the reason.
Yeah, and I understand. It's basically they're trying to work in their own best interest and still make money. But it does affect things later on down that they, one, have no clue about, or two, could have a clue about but refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah, us drivers have been screaming at these apps for years to like make more common sense decisions, and they clearly haven't listened. Like,
Yeah.
if there's
Yeah.
2 orders coming from the same restaurant, just give them from the same restaurant, give it to the same driver, and it just makes common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I actually, this didn't come up, but I do want to make this point. A lot of people say, like, oh, why don't you take these problems up with the companies? We have. You brought it up. But Soda has his own connections through all these apps. All these restaurants are kind of up and tired of it. Customers are up and tired of it. And these are some things that, okay, we can really fix all of these issues if we actually really go through it, but they don't want to go through it. They want to profit. They want to make money by dropping our pay and increasing your costs. And I'm sure you guys have experienced the nice. I don't know,
Yeah.
actually. You guys are a franchise. You may have earned a discount for the number of or like the commission rates. How what is your commission rate on DoorDash, if you don't mind me asking? Or do you not have that information?
I actually don't have that information. My boss shares a lot with me. But as far as commission rates, I am not sure. I only know that on the that terminal I was talking about where it conglomerates all the drivers, because of that, um, every driver that is routed through that odd terminal or on-demand delivery service, um, they actually get an additional $5 that we as the restaurant pay to directly to the driver.
Oh, it
I
sounds like
say
you actually
directly.
have it sounds like you have your own DSP in your area that white labels into that location. What is the name of that company, if you don't mind me asking?
On-demand delivery service or odds. They're actually pretty nice. I've not really had any major issues with them. Just anytime I have an issue, just type to the little lady in the top right corner, and she'll usually get me fixed up. And the the point I was gonna make was that oh shoot, I lost my train of thought.
You said that you are you know that all of these orders go into a single terminal, and
Oh, shoot.
I was asking about commission rates for the company, but your manager explains a lot to you.
Oh,
And
yeah. Wes is the franchise owner. He's my boss. The commission rates I'm not sure of. I was gonna say that the $5 we paid to the driver, I said directly. I think it's actually they see 450 of that, and the odds takes a 50-cent cut of that. So I don't. I was just gonna fix my point where they don't actually see the whole $5. I think it's like 450 into addition of whatever tip they receive for their order.
So that's not very
okay,
much. Yeah, pretty good.
yeah, yeah. It for most of these delivery service provide like these and this is something I teach. I have a course talking all about this stuff. Um, from what how it would work is that it all goes into a single terminal. That terminal is ran by a delivery service provider who they contract all their drivers to. Seems like they charge you a flat rate. They charge a little bit per delivery for the software or whatever,
Yeah.
and they dispatch it to every driver for the remainder amount and forward the tips of like 100% of the way, unless somebody takes a little cut somewhere. And I'm not even going to touch that right now. We're not going to approach that yet, but I do want to go back to the multi-apping point. Now, if all of these drivers, you've seen drivers where, from what you've told me, there are multiple people in the car, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. I can see him through my front glass. There's two people in the car, and they're both waiting on deliveries. They'll both come in. Very, very rarely they'll both get sent to our location. They're both coming in there looking for an order.
No,
So they're both.
that's
Go
like
ahead.
that's kind of like stacking, but with multiple people.
Yeah.
As long as the orders are going the same direction and have the same time frame, that's fine. But a lot of times, people truly dirty multi-app. What we as gig workers look at that as is one's going south, one's going north, and you're completely delaying one of the other's orders because of that. You're
Yeah.
not going a similar direction. And I personally don't have problems if people work as teams. As long as that person's working as a team, I do have a problem with the one person having the husband's and the wife's phone and having two DoorDashes, two Ubers, etc. So that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, and that's probably where I would too. It's just I guess the problem for them most of the time is that they only have one car. In my area, it's just not really affordable for
For a
especially
two-car
where we're
household.
at for a 2-car household for
Okay.
a majority of
Sounds
the
like you're
third-party drivers.
dealing with. I hear what you're saying. It sounds like, from what I could tell, you're dealing with a lot of what's the best way to put it? Customers who have a whatchamacallit. The customers that you're dealing with, well, really the drivers that you're dealing with, it sounds like the multiple people in the car, they could very well just be like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. That I've seen a fair amount. Again, it shouldn't be done. Like, let me be clear, I'm not condoning that. If that's actually the case, though, I see why they're doing it, because they're probably both working so much to where that's kind of their only quality time that they spend together.
Yeah.
That also said, I do not think that's it. Number one, it's not a great way to profit from these apps, and number two, you're basically, if you're not doing it right, you're gonna only add more fuel to the fire, or you are doing it right and you're showing other people that that's what you're doing, but they don't really have the skills to do that, so they're doing it 100% wrong and not actually learning from it.
Yeah, the only couple I can think of that does it in a quote unquote right way is the Long Island Gas experience. And
they're very good about that.
Yeah, they actually look at where it's going, or one's a small order going nearby and the other's a 3-shop or something going big, or one's a large food order and the other's just a quick McDonald's. The other will take off while the other sits there at the restaurant and waits. And I think that's like the only example. If they're working like that, that's fine with me. But I got a feeling they're not. Most people do it the wrong, quote unquote, way, and that's why these companies crack down on us like that. And it makes it harder for all of us. And I don't like when that happens because it just makes it more of a headache.
Yeah, and there's also and I did want to touch back on this point again, because I wanted to, well, like, I know we already mentioned it, but I did want to bring this up because I think that it is an important point. So the drivers with multiple phones, that could very well just be an iPhone and an Android, and there are some apps that an Android has that an iPhone doesn't, and vice versa, that are valuable for drivers. And like, I was just talking to a company about this specifically. There are some features on an Android that you cannot duplicate on iOS.
Yeah.
And that is another reason.
But
they're mainly utility apps. They're not DoorDash or Uber Eats. They're tools in which you can make more money with these apps. I don't know if they're actually doing it that way based on what you're telling me. They're not exactly the most professional company. They're not the most professional gig workers out there. So I don't know if they are actually asking for, like, actually doing that, but it's possible that is what they're doing.
Yeah. And then I remember my third point. My third point was just straight up actual theft of the order. Just I get a call 45 minutes after somebody's placed their order, hey, where's my food? And I go, let me go check my terminal, see if there's a picture for if the order has been delivered, because 99% of the orders have a photo along next to the name of the driver and the order and location that they went to, showing that yes, it had been delivered. I see probably 20% of the orders I send just never arrive to the location they're supposed to. And I guess that could be a problem with our restaurant as well, not verifying that the driver is actually like able to, I'm not sure what you call it, but like confirm the order, like sliding the little bar across and like it actually goes through. So I guess that could be a problem with us just verifying the drivers, but also people pretending to be a DoorDash driver or a third-party driver in general, and taking the food is
So the most
just a
common
low-down thing.
the most common scam is they'll actually have the order, screenshot it, and or screenshot it and just come in and then just cancel the order before they came in, or like they do that. So a lot of restaurants here, which slows the whole process up, keep it behind the counter all the time and make people confirm before they leave, which, once you get familiar with certain drivers, it's not as big of a problem with them. But
Yeah.
as far as as a whole, it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and we do keep the orders behind the counter inside a warming box that keeps it at 150. And we have to, I say, we do a good job most of the time in watching the driver able to confirm the order. So it does slow y'all down, but it's also a way for us to help eliminate like phony drivers. And there's only, off the top of my head, 2 or 3 drivers that I've gotten to know that come in often for orders, and the rest are like it's a new one every time, and so I have no way of getting to know what driver's what, which one's legit, which one's not. It's just too big of
So
a turnaround on drivers.
you have the actual tablets or go on the actual website, you can thumbs up or heart a driver, and that will put priority to them. And that's my only suggestion as a driver to a merchant, that you can help resolve those problems, because then they'll get priority to your orders.
Yeah, well, we have so many apps that we use that we'd actually have like 4 or 5 tablets, and we just didn't have the space
Well,
in our
if
restaurant for it.
well, here's the other thing. Like you said, you use a ODDS, right? Like an on-demand delivery service, and
Yeah,
all of these get conglomerated into one
yeah,
one but tablet, which means you're like that the third-party drivers are working for that company. What you can do is actually, hey, this is a driver I really like. Can you put me as a priority? I'm sure that they have some sort of feature for that, and I'll tell you what, I'll make a note of that for my software developer, so that way we can add it to ours if that's not already there.
okay.
So that way it's not you're going through every single driver. You're going through the couple of different ones that are, you're going through yeah. Now, that also said, it also seems like I find this happens, like the food theft happens, to orders that have little to no tips. Like, that is what I find in the areas the orders that have the most fraudulent customers in general, the areas that have the most drivers that cause the most problems. That's another big issue. And again, you said that you're in an area where a two-car household is very uncommon and is not feasible in most cases.
I
So
wouldn't
it
say
sounds like,
uncommon, just or not feasible. I would just say it's becoming less and less feasible. There are plenty of two-car households. It's just not as often, especially for the drivers, just because of like the situation that most of them are in that have caused them to be a delivery driver.
Interesting choice of words. Let me ask you a question. How would you define Fort Myers in terms of income class? Or Fort
Like,
whatever it is, the place that you work in?
oh, Fort Smith?
Fort Smith, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're fine. Um, we definitely were a boom town for one company in particular, Whirlpool, and when they pulled out, the area has just gotten poorer and poorer.
Okay. So it could very well just be a location issue. We were just talking about Bud Soda. I was just bringing up the subject not too long ago about if you're in a excuse me, if you're in a rougher neighborhood, you're going to have a lower quality customer base and you're going to have a lower quality driver base. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be like, I'm not trying to say anything about where you live or anything like that. That's not
Oh,
what
no,
I'm
I
trying to
understand.
do. Yeah, it's just, you're going to find that more often. Like one of the things that all these companies like to say is that 99 like in almost every case these orders go off without a hitch. The orders that do have the most problems though are the orders in I hate using these words, but it's the only words I know how to describe my point. The ghetto areas, the questionable neighborhoods, the lower income class neighborhoods where they want to tip, they're having SNAP benefits, they have their Section 8 housing, but they just don't have the financial means to accomplish that, if that makes the most sense.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'm not sure about my area in particular. We do have the lower income areas, but most of our customer base, just due to our prices, is just the wealthier individuals in town because we charge $18 for a large one topping pizza. So that's gonna automatically put out a lot of people. And then we just add on to that for every topping after single topping. So it pushes a lot of people away from being able to afford us in general.
Yeah, and I think Bud was actually bringing up that point. Is even
Yeah.
though he
So a
go
lot of
ahead.
richer people actually, quote unquote, in richer neighborhoods, as far as like from us, they seem to live beyond their means, and you'll get, I'm sure you've seen the TikToks where they tip like $2-3 and not anything at all, and they confront the person over it, and it's actually like not as beneficial versus if you go to a middle class or blue collar kind of area or even a trailer park. They've worked, someone in that family's probably worked in the industry that, either you work in or done like our work, like either
Yeah.
delivery or restaurant work, and they get it and they actually tip better.
Yeah.
So delivering to a richer clientele can actually be a big problem as well because some of them are not very generous. I've had a neighborhood outside the city here that's very generous, but in some other areas, like if I deliver in the city, although they're delivering to a $500,000 house, they tip $2, and it's all base pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my point with that was more along the lines of like the lower neighborhoods can't really afford that. In my experience, and maybe this does fit Fort Smith properly, and maybe I'm just talking out my hoo-ha. But in my experience, the best tipping neighborhoods are the neighborhoods that are full of people that have money and worked for it. That is middle class, upper middle class. Not like you can find it with lower middle class, but the order flow just won't be right. And that like some people still pull the shady stuff that they do.
They'll be,
And
yeah,
in lower class neighborhoods, they'll say they'll actually confirm the order, or like you're trying to get a picture for the order and for whatever reason, the customer just immediately takes it inside, and you can't get that picture, and then they immediately claim, "Oh, the order never arrived. What's going on here?"
Yeah.
And that is a common fraud, especially for people who choose not to tip or tip very poorly. So
Yeah,
that
so
is something I do want to bring up. Like,
I had a customer from Pizza Hut, so a pizza place, and they swore up and down they gave me everything. They claimed they were missing their wings. And then when they turned around and reported to DoorDash, it wasn't an order never arrived, but I got a notification saying, "Oh, you didn't get the picture of the whole order," because she grabbed it right out of my hand before I could get a picture, and she took it inside, and I only got a picture of the salad part of it. And she claimed she got nothing but the salad, basically. Yeah, so we get that kind of behaviors all the time with the lower class areas because I ended up finding out the tip on it was $1.50 and it was like $7 basement.
Yeah.
And I saw that order come up again, and she probably got everything redelivered to her as a whole new order except that salad because she did contact me about the wings, and I said contact support, but she probably claimed she embellished and say, "Oh, I didn't give her pizzas, I gave her breadsticks." So it's a very common problem that we have, and sometimes I know DoorDash will try to blame it on the restaurant and make you do you have
and unfortunately, because these platforms are like ran by like the support systems are ran in the Philippines, they're told to do exactly this task, and they won't do much more than that.
Yeah.
I find it's more the AI algorithm. If they go through the automated steps in this chat, the AI will just automatically side with the customer, just give them what they want.
Yeah.
And that's how we get the most contract violations is because they're using the AI automated steps. Versus,
Yeah.
I had a problem with someone who had 5 people riding around in the car. They were ungrateful. They didn't have bags. And I tried to get a little bit of money back because I had a horrible experience from a really expensive pizza place in my town. And they tried to harass the restaurant owner versus, holding themselves accountable or holding the driver accountable. And I was not very happy about it being like, hey, I'm a dasher myself. So basically from then on, that restaurant is actually very particular of the drivers. They have enough bags for all the orders except if it's a super, super large order. I mean, like 200 plus of food. And basically try to bag everything up as much as possible because I had like $80 of food. So it was like, I had like a lasagna tray. I got cannolis, a bunch of snacks, pizza, breadsticks. I went baller and got everything I could. And I had a terrible experience. I'm sure you see that every day. You said you had that problem with drivers not like doing the pizza bag things. And that's also another problem is the apps won't show the full pay except in a state like Colorado where, it's still per offer based and they have to show the full pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Now, go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to bring up a different subject. So go ahead and bring up what you were going to say.
I was just gonna say on the bag issue, it has become less of a problem of drivers not having bags, but it is still a big enough problem that they don't have them, that every time I send it out, I'm wondering if it's worth sending it out with them because they don't have a bag that I know I'll probably just get a refund request or whatnot because the food was cold and there's nothing really I can do about it because it's ultimately up to my boss.
It sounds like
whether
you're
or not
dealing
that
with a
gets
lot of
acted on.
questionable customers too.
So,
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, if they should have their bags, but it sounds like the customers are actively looking for ways to get a refund if that continuously happens.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
go ahead.
You go ahead. I was just gonna say, yeah, I have people who look for refunds more than they should, and I will personally get a hold of DoorDash for people to get them a refund, just because I'd rather them, if they did have their order messed up, get their money back for it, than if they
Mhm.
didn't and they're just wanting their money back to not get it. I'd rather them get the refund if they are being truthful than to not get it if they
You
weren't,
want to
or if they
support
are
your
being
quality
truthful. So
customers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
Yeah. You want to support your quality customers.
okay. Here's the alternative: is you're a franchisee location. You said.
yeah.
DoorDash has a program where you can get those cheap pizza bags, at least it's something, for $1 to $5 each. And depending on how many you have and how many locations you have you looked into doing that? I know there's one location that a DoorDash driver group put up on Facebook, and people threw a fit that they were charging $5 a bag, but it's like that's how much they're actually getting charged for each bag. Have you looked into
Yeah.
doing something like that to make sure that people have pizza bags?
Um, no, because I didn't even know that was an option. But we have had the option in the past where we would buy new bags for our location, like for our own personal drivers. See, we have personal drivers and we use the third parties as well.
Yeah.
And we would sell our old delivery bags to them for like $5 to $10. But they were like, when we purchased them, they're from a reputable company like pizzajackets.com or
Yeah.
Pizza King, I think is what they are. I forget. They got a little crown for their symbol. But we would sell them those, and they were originally like $20, $30 bags.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And most bags go for that rate. I know I got mine from Amazon from a company called Take Gear. Those are more catering bags though,
yeah.
and they were quality. They were really good.
Anything that's foam insulated and worth its weight is usually 20 plus. Like usually they're 30 plus and they're really good. Like I got this Grubhub back here, really big pizza bag, and it's foam insulated and they keep stuff really hot. And
Mhm.
those are the highest quality. But at least if you had the aluminum little thin bag, the convention, it's letting the steam out, but it's keeping the pizzas overall warmer for a 20-minute trip versus having no bag and it gets exposed to that. I know you get cold there too, like what we do here, that get exposed to that 40 degrees or less air all the time. And yeah, we're having that problem bad right now where people are just not tipping because we have an influx of new drivers who have no bags. And the Pizza Hut here is the only one that has like the cheap DoorDash bags, but they only give them to you if you get a merchant made order, and they don't give out too many of those.
Okay.
And also, you mentioned that you use a ODDS, which is basically your DSP service. Now, don't because they have their own drivers. I assume that is one of the qualifications they can have when onboarding drivers. Like, hey, you got to have your own bags. You're in business for yourself. You need to have quality bags. Do you guys have that? Did you actually ask that DSP if they actually do those? If they actually do those kind of quality checks?
No, because mostly the boss man does all that, and I do most of the managing of the restaurant day to day.
Got you. Got
But
you.
he deals with all that. I'm not sure. I could ask the lady if they do those quality checks or if they could like send it to the higher ups, like, hey, be more diligent about doing
Yeah, I
those
know.
checks for if they've got bags or not. But as far as doing it off the rip, um, in the first place, I have no clue just because I've never thought about asking that.
Yeah, almost all of the non-on-demand apps and have me sending pictures of how many bags I have. Like, I'll make me send a picture of how many bags I have. And when a friend of ours used to do on-demand, he did the same, but he also provided a pizza bag and a regular bag as well. So I'd say look into getting with a Velcro, not the zipper style. The zippers break too easy. Look into getting a cheap Velcro style pizza bags from either DoorDash or some other source that's really cheap. And I get with your owner on that for sure. Moving subjects. What's your next point, Joe? You got here.
Actually, I think that is the gist of it. I feel like I need to know a little bit more about odds, and because you're not the owner of the restaurant, you're the manager of the day to day. There's only so much that I can ask. Long wait times for drivers. That could also be like that is a point that was mentioned a lot in the reviews of the location.
Is that just on Google?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably due to like our high volume times where our pizza guys just can't keep up.
Well, a couple of the reviews said you swore 20 minutes and it'd be almost double the time. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, that's just our cooks not keeping up.
I'm gonna partial blame the driver. I'm not. I give a 2-minute leeway. Just leave or do what I do and just multi-app, keep stacking.
Yeah, that's one thing I would say. Like, if a driver is actually not okay with the wait time, they could very well just unassign. Again, this is also a different like system though. Like, this is odds. We don't know what their policies are, and I got to do some more research on that. Like, would they punish the driver for unassigning an order? I know that there are some companies that if you unassign an order, they'll charge you for it, and then they're like, no, that's not the fault of the driver. That is, hey, the wait time is not acceptable based on what was committed to them. And I know that some DSPs actually fight for wait time pay. Based on what you're telling me, that doesn't sound like they're actually doing that.
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as I know, on how odds works is it actually comes through their app. Like they're integrated into the app, so it doesn't show up as a different provider. It's just it comes through their app, and you'll know it's an odds order app because the order on their app won't have any information as to what items the order has, like wings, pizza, whatnot. It will just say pick up such and such name, and then it'll say occasionally on a couple of the apps like UberEats and like ASAP/Waiter, it will just say pick up 1x persons, and it's like you're picking up an actual person, but it's actually you're just getting food. So they have no idea what they're picking up when they get there, and that's just an odds terminal communication to the apps issue.
Yeah, I was gonna say sounds to me like they're just not providing the full scope of what the driver is supposed to expect for this delivery. Like, if I'm supposed to bring X number of pizza bags or X number of catering bags, I need to know what I need. I need to know what I have. I have 8 catering bags, a few different pizza bags, some like 5 different tote bags. How do I know that I am capable of taking this order when you won't tell me what I need to bring inside? What should I just unload my car, bring it all in, to pack what I need, and then bring it all back to my car? It sounds like odds is just not providing like the full scope of information. Like, it sounds to me, and I don't know anything about odds. I'm going to be clear. I am speculating.
Yeah.
It sounds to me that odds boasted itself to restaurants as a way for them to cut their commission rates in half through self-delivery, and they are offering drivers a way to earn more. But their system sounds to me, again, sounds rather incomplete. You don't have the opportunity to actually accept, you don't have the opportunity to know what you're delivering, number one. And number two, if you don't have a consistent driver base, like you said, 2 or 3 of those drivers because they're working with odds. They're not working with DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub. They're working with odds specifically. If that is the case, then the customer, then the driver is probably not finding the app very profitable, and they're probably just turning it off and never turning it back on again. So that sounds like there's a fair amount of churn happening within that app.
Well, as far as I know, Odds is not its actual own separate app. It is integrated into the other apps. Like they have contracts with them to send the order through to the actual app itself, like Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub, and whatnot. Because there's not like a separate app that they're pulling up for Odds. Odds, as far as I know, is a conglomeration.
So here's the other question: where is this? You said that the system gets 50 cents and the driver gets $4.50 for each order plus whatever tips. Now that sounds like the DSP to me, but where are these orders coming from? Are they coming from DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, or are they coming from? Okay, so that sounds like a DSP. If it was like from your website specifically, and they are getting sent to drivers that are not on that may or may not be on DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, that sounds like their own DSP. If it's your website and then a DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub driver comes through, then that is a white label service that is offered most likely through DoorDash, Uber Eats, or Grubhub. Now, again, they probably connected their API to it and are sending the orders accordingly. Whether or not they send the full value of anything, like you said, you don't know anything about how much they're getting for tips or anything like that. That sounds more like what Wes would know.
Yeah, he has told me in the past that they get $5 on top of the tips, but that that Odds did take a cut, and as far as I remember, he said it was 50 cents.
Which is not too surprising. Yeah. They get 50 cents, and the driver gets the full delivery fee plus whatever the whatchamacallit is. The tip, yeah. And sometimes, from what I've heard, those DSPs can actually reduce the amount of tip that the driver receives, and they can keep some of that, which would cause longer wait times because, again, it's a lower value order now. Yeah. I don't know about this lady. I don't know anything like that, but that is a possibility. But also, this is they would have, it sounds like it's their drivers, and they are 2 or 3 of them. Can I make some assumptions about those drivers?
Sure. Just one of them is mute / semi-deaf.
Okay.
Then that's the only one that I would see having a communication issue of any kind with other people. But the other 2 drivers, they speak, talk, walk just fine.
Okay. How old are they?
One is probably younger 30s. The mute deaf guy, he's probably late 30s, and the other one that I know, he's I want to say late 20s to early 30s, somewhere in there.
Okay, so they might just be loyalists to the app. They probably were there for the longest out of all of them. I don't know when Odds was founded, but probably close to that. And they're probably getting a lot of the best orders naturally. And you know what? There's a level of, they should be. They've been committed to the app. They should be treated as veterans that are trusted, that know what they're doing. Yeah. Let's acknowledge that truth. But then there's also the drivers that are just getting on board. They're getting the lowest quality orders. And from what they see coming in, they're not really getting a whole lot. So what are they going to do? They're going to probably keep it on in the background. If they get a good order, great. If not, they're sticking with Doordash, UberEats, and Grubhub. And that's why you won't see a lot of the same drivers over and over again.
Okay.
And that's from what I can tell. Now, if this was like an older like guy or girl, they're retired. They don't care how much they make. They just want something to do throughout their day. That's what I was kind of getting at. I wasn't assuming like, oh, any communication issues or anything like that. There are so many people that speak like half English that are truly effective at their jobs, and they run circles around people who are like educated and whatever they want to claim themselves to be. Because honestly, I think that's just a nonsense status symbol. But that's me personally. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of what I don't want to like bring up the point of tip theft because there's nothing you would know a whole lot about that, because I know that there have been accusations on the subject. I do want to bring.
I've heard nothing of that.
So let me bring up that comment really quick from Mr.
One thing I wanted to add to one of the drivers I do see, you reminded me when you said older gentlemen that are retired. There is one older gentleman who I'm pretty sure is probably retired wearing a Vietnam War cap. He comes in often. He's very friendly and nice. He's one of the other ones I know, but I had forgotten about.
Yeah, he's probably making a fair amount, but he's also it doesn't matter how much he makes. He wants something to do. Needs something to keep him busy. I know that I know a lot of drivers that are very much like, yeah, well, we're not really all that. We don't really need a whole lot at this point. We already have like most of our money, but we're not the kind of people that would just sit around all day and just relax. Some people do like retirement that way. I would rather gouge my eyes out, but that's me personally. But let's. Did he? Yep, he came back.
Yep.
So let's bring up this comment that Jim's Razorback Pizza received about a year ago from a Stephen Dossier. They steal tips from delivery drivers. When they don't have a delivery driver available, they send the deliveries to DoorDash. I'm assuming this is an old system. I don't know how long you've had odds for. If
Probably
the
more
customer,
than a year.
Okay, more than a year. Okay. If the customer tipped, they keep it and don't give it to the DoorDash driver. I picked it up the other day. The customer sounds like a typo. Wanted to make sure I got her $5 tip. Nope, the store kept it. Now, because you brought up the point of odds, we don't know if odds took it or if the store took it or if there's some level of connection there. But Jim's Razorback Pizza, the owner specifically, and you can tell me if this is the same owner or not. Hello, I've talked to the owner about this, and he states that DoorDash pays all their tips the next day per our agreement with them. If you don't get paid for the delivery, I would bring that up with DoorDash. Thank you, Taylor Kronberg. Now, I don't know what your relationship with Taylor Kronberg is, but I have never heard on DoorDash that being the case. Like I don't think that has ever happened for any driver on any DoorDash platform.
Okay. So Taylor, she at one point was like our social media person. She, not to get too specific, but the boss man's son, that's his wife. and the boss man's
Okay.
son works there at gyms in store as well.
Okay.
But yeah, she was contracted to be our social media person because she had experience with that, and that was her getting back to like complaints because she deals with like complaints, social media posts,
Yeah,
Facebook
Google reviews and
complaints,
stuff
stuff
like
like
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know her. I
Okay.
know her personally. I actually knew her before her husband knew her.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
fun fact.
Yeah. She
Sounds like you've been with the company for a few years.
well, no, she was the friend to one of my stepsisters when I was growing up. So
Oh, so you're the friend to the family. Got it.
kinda, yeah.
Okay. 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 But yeah,
So
it doesn't. Go ahead.
from us drivers and from what I've worked with other merchants who self-deployed, that doesn't work like that. DoorDash tips are available immediately. They don't hold them like Uber or Walmart would, where it's 24 to 72 hours or an hour. It's anywhere from an hour to 72, depending on what the order is. But we tend to see them right away. And if you have like what's called the Crimson Card now, it used to be called Dasher Direct, you can get the money immediately upon completing the order by ending your dash. So when it
Yeah,
gets
but
sent,
this is
when it gets sent out, the tip should be included in it immediately. It should not take a day.
Okay.
yeah. So there's no like because those systems are in place, those payouts happen immediately. So if it's either coming immediately or it's not, and that's just the reality of DoorDash specifically. If this was Uber, I think the wait time is like an hour and a half for us. I don't know how much it would. I think that's pretty much an hour and a half period. But I don't even know if they could pull the tips after if it was self delivery. I don't think they can. But
Called a
Grubhub's very much like
24.
the payout's the payout. There's no hidden tips. There's no games. Nothing like that. But yeah, that's like for us. We just find that hey, it's not possible to work that way. But
Yeah, I
again, that
understand
is
that.
a conversation for Wes more than Wes and this woman from Odds. Because if Odds is doing that, what could very well be happening is that the full order does get sent to Odds. And then she can't, like, all her drivers don't want this order. So what does she do? She sends it right back to DoorDash, except this time there's no tip at all.
Okay.
So she keeps the tips. So that is all of that is possible. I don't like companies that do that. I know that it's not always the manager doing it. It's just the AI, like the API. There's a code that they have that they can connect, and they have they have the tip removed and then send the order out to DoorDash. That's 100% possible, but like it could very well go in any of those directions.
We did a whole 3-part live series on it, and we have a business partner of ours that we work with either app-based or more directly, like Joe does, and he has a restaurant too, and he does catering. So if he has to send an order to DoorDash, he removes the tip by default because in the past, DoorDash used to skim part of that tip to make their guarantees, and they're getting sued 10 ways from Sunday about it. But like, he won't ever send a tip out, and he'll just Cash App or Venmo a person instead. So we're saying for the owner, or Odds, if they don't trust DoorDash to pass along the tip, can you at least, contact the driver somehow and just get their Cash App or Venmo and pass it
Okay.
along to them that way?
And that's all. And that also comes down to the DSP, like build your own DSP course that we've created. One of the things we constantly see is that these companies like to get funny with the numbers. Some restaurants, not saying anything about gyms or anything like that, but some of these restaurants like to get funny with the numbers. I know Carrabba's near me. They got very funny with the numbers. Papa John's, these big chains.
Yeah. A lot of
It's
change that's going for.
it's frequent enough for us to be like, enough's enough. Let's make sure we can get at least the delivery aspect right. They can maintain their marketplace on DoorDash, UberEats, and Grubhub if they want, but we can also connect their website and all of that good stuff, and we could teach other people how to do that and build their own delivery service provider with very minimal cost. And so, like, if you build it up, there's no cost at all. And that is literally the purpose of the course. And we're trying to fix the gig economy in a way. So
Okay.
that is something we're trying to do on our end. But we're like, this has been a really long recording, so I want to wrap this up. Is there any other points that you want to bring up before I rudely end this?
I don't think so. Just the bag issue, the food theft, and the cold orders. It's just it all comes together as one big cluster, and it helps nobody. And some of it is due to the confusion of the apps themselves, and others is just due to sheer incompetence from drivers. And I just wanted to reiterate that what the people on the video you did were saying was 100% true. It wasn't like they were blowing it out of proportion.
And we did go back and forth on that fair amount. So we're not going to push that too far at this point. But I'm glad that we had that conversation. I hope that adds some clarity to your side, clarity for us on our side. I know that Bud is pretty well versed on all of this as well as myself. And I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. Is there anything you'd like to plug for your end before I cap this out?
No, not really. Just be nice to your drivers, whether they did you wrong or not. It's all just everybody's trying to be economical with, especially the third parties. They're all just trying to make a buck.
That is true. That is true. And make sure you treat your restaurants with respect. They're trying to do the best they can. We got to do the best we can as well. In any case, if you guys have something you would like to state on being a delivery driver or being a restaurant owner, anything to that effect, make sure to email me. My email is drivenwyld@gmail.com. Let me know what you want to talk about, any topics you'd like to bring up, and who knows, maybe you'll be brought onto the show as well. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it, as always. And also make sure to follow Bud Soda on his YouTube channel. I know that there's definitely going to be some overlap with this. Yeah. Because he is currently not monetized yet. We're looking to have him monetized in the near future. Bud Soda at Bud Soda Stories on YouTube. And we are excited and looking forward to helping everyone secure their financial future. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.